What is going on, everybody? My name is Jake with Code 4 Defense, and we're out here on the range taking a look at the Taurus GX4. This is just going to be a simple review and more of a overview of the Taurus GX4. My intent here is to just give you a little taste of what the gun feels like and just kind of some of my overall impressions of it. Just a full disclosure on this guy, I don't get paid or endorsed by Taurus or anything like that to bring you this handgun. We purchased this with our company to manufacture holsters with, and so this is just an opportunity for you to get a view of the Taurus GX4 and just another perspective from everybody else out there. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, the Taurus GX4 is the latest offering from Taurus. It is the micro or subcompact polymer frame striker fired handgun. It's their latest release after the G3C, I believe. It holds 11 rounds in the magazine plus one in the chamber, making it a total 12-round handgun. Pretty cool little package, about the same size as a Glock 43. Just a little bit thicker in the frame and the slide, but overall profile is about the same as the Glock 43. So like we always do, we're going to work front to back, working top to bottom on this guy, showing you all the different features of the Taurus GX4. Up front and on the back there, we've got polymer iron sights, and they're actually Glock compatible, which is kind of interesting, making a wide range of aftermarket aftermarket sights possible for this guy. The front has nice serrations, making doing a press check if you're into that kind of thing very easy. Right up here on the top, you can see it's got a loaded chamber indicator. So all you got to do is cant the gun, take a look down, and you can see that there's brass in there when it's loaded. Working towards the back, again, nice serrations. Very nice finish on the slide of the handgun. Working on the frame, it's got very nice stippling that kind of goes here where you would rest your thumb. Not really a good cutout to get a good purchase with your thumb, but there is some nice stippling there so that you can get somewhat of a good purchase. Right here, we've got the slide stop. It is not ambidextrous. And for my thumb, it gets a little bit hard to try and do slide stop reloads with it. I found myself kind of going over the top reloads, doing the slingshot or the, straight over the top reload with it. Working forward, got kind of an interesting looking trigger guard, nice and big for fingers to get in there. The trigger itself is actually pretty cool looking, I think, for just a stock trigger. It's kind of got a flat face to it with a little bit of curve. Nothing too crazy or anything like that. It's got the trigger safety in there, and then obviously the shoe itself. Speaking of the trigger, we'll give you a little bit of a feel of what that is like. Right there is the wall. So basically, I don't know, maybe 2 millimeters of travel right there before you hit the wall. Once you hit the wall, it is just a break. There's no creep in it, nothing crazy like that. Coming back, letting off the trigger, that's your reset right there, right back on the wall. There's the break again. So nice little short reset, and that's the wall. Actually, probably the thing that I like the most about this gun is the trigger, to be honest. I think it looks cool. The feel of it is great. And, you know, something that's kind of weird that not a lot of companies or in the past have done is the trigger, after it's been fired, has full travel on it. So if I wanted to take this home and do some dry firing, all I have to do is just continue to manipulate that trigger. Now, you don't get the wall and you don't get the click or anything like that. But that said, it's a good way to get up on it and just get reps in of pulling the trigger without moving the handgun at all, which, you know, in my opinion, is one of the more important things when it comes to marksmanship and accuracy, being able to pull the trigger without moving the handgun at all. So being able to do that is actually kind of a cool feature. Continuing to work down the magazine release, kind of a triangle. Again, it's not ambidextrous, and, you know, nothing on this handgun is other than the trigger, I guess. But it's got a nice triangle face to it, nice and proud, so you can get your thumb on there. The magazines drop free very nicely, fall out of the handgun without any work to get them out whatsoever. My only issue with this is it stands very proud on the gun, and I'm not sure if you can get a good view of that. But the gun is so small, when I go to get a grip, I'll see if I can recreate it for you. When I'm firing, the gun, as it snaps, it hits my support hand, hits this magazine release, and it ends up causing malfunctions on the firearm. So, you know, in the shooting video, or excuse me, in the shooting footage that you're seeing, you're essentially seeing all kinds of malfunctions that I'm having with this guy. And at the end of all of it, I fired several hundred rounds through this thing. At the end of all of it, what I discovered was that for me, this handgun and my grip just don't get along. For whatever reason, when my support hand comes up here and the handgun is recoiling every time it hits that. Now, I could train that out. You know, I could work on my grip. I could make it fit the handgun, but for me, full stop right there. It's not something that I'm going to do. I don't like this gun that much that, you know, I'm going to retrain my entire grip and stance and everything like that just so that I can carry this thing. I've had other people shoot it and they didn't have that issue whatsoever. My left-handed friends that have shot it didn't have any issue, obviously, because they're coming up here on the left side of the gun where that is not any kind of an issue whatsoever. But for me, you know, it kind of brings up the point that if you're going to carry a handgun, which obviously this is geared towards concealed carry, you really need to take the thing out and run it for several hundred rounds to get a feel as to whether or not this is going to be something that you want to carry, whether or not this is something that isn't going to suit your needs. The gun is pretty snappy shooting it, but for whatever reason, that recoil just hits it. So while I like the fact that this is easy to manipulate and it stands proud and it allows you to do magazine exchanges very efficiently, it, for me, is a deal breaker on the gun, unfortunately. Continuing to move down, you can see it's got very nice stippling all along the frame down here that allows you to get a nice purchase. The palm swell that comes on the back there is adjustable, so there's another one that comes in the package to help you get a different grip on the gun and just for different users' hands, things like that. The magazine well, as you can see, nothing too crazy or special there. It's got these notches so that if you do have a malfunction, it's easy to strip the magazine out, which is a good thought by Taurus. You know, some companies are making that happen, some aren't. But it's a nice thought for when you're working serious malfunctions like a double feed, which, you know, in my experience with this gun, I had a ton of. Speaking of the magazine of the gun is this kind of tapered steel framed magazine. It takes 11 rounds in the magazine plus one in the chamber, like I had mentioned previously, making it a 12 round firearm, which, you know, a handgun of this size, not too terribly much bigger than not too much bigger than my hand. It's a pretty good amount of firepower for a package like this. And I think that this is a trend that we're seeing with a ton of different firearms coming out over the last several years. You know, Taurus isn't new to this game, but they stepped up and provided their answer to what a lot of other companies are doing. So kind of moving to my thoughts and impressions on it after several hundred rounds through it. Like I mentioned, this isn't a gun that I'm going to go around carrying, and it's for the simple fact that the way that magazine release hits, it's just a deal breaker for me. It is something that I'm not going to be able to overcome for the desire to want to carry it. And there's a couple of other reasons actually why I don't think that this is going to be a gun that I would ever carry. And I think Taurus fell short on a couple of things. The main one being, and they'll probably remedy this in the future iterations of this gun. So if you're thinking about picking it up, you're kind of on the fence, you might wait a year or two and see. But the fact that it didn't come milled for an optic, in 2021, that's kind of one of those things that should almost be standard. It's just almost an industry standard at this point, and I think they kind of missed their mark when they didn't do that. The other part that I think they missed their mark on is the fact that it doesn't have a rail along the front section of the frame here. The fact that I won't be able to put any kind of aftermarket light on there is kind of an issue for me, especially because on some of my handguns, my carry ones, I like to have that option of carrying a weapon mounted light. And with this one, unless a company comes out with an aftermarket light for it, it's just not going to be an issue, or an aftermarket rail, which, they may or may not do. And I'll be honest, those types of things are never really my favorite, just because I have a limited amount of lights that I actually like to trust and carry on my handguns. The things that I do like about this thing is its size, its weight. It's got several modern features on it, like with the stippling, the front and rear serrations. The fact that they use Glock front and rear sights allows for a lot of modularity with that. And, truly for a small handgun, it actually does shoot very well. It's a little snappy, but, when I compare it to my 43, it's certainly not any snappier than my 43 is. And so, with the fact that it's about the same size and I get 12 rounds of 9mm for it, I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty good deal. And it's something that, the other big pro of it is the fact that this thing comes in at right at $400, which for the market right now is a very good price for a subcompact, maximum capacity, essentially, concealed carry handgun. That's a good entry level price to pay. And I think if your hands are suited for it, it's a good firearm that you can use, that you can learn on, that you can grow with. And, carrying it around, doing the drills and stuff like that, it carries extremely well. It's just, like I said, some little drawbacks on it. I think they just missed their mark ever so slightly. But again, at that $400 price point, it's kind of like beggars can't be choosers, because if I did mill it, or if they did mill it, if it did have these features, it might be a $500 handgun. And now we're talking about getting up somewhere in the range of a 43 MOS if you, a 43X MOS if you get it from the right person, $500. So, the $100 difference is kind of where you're going to be at on this guy. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I'll see what I can answer for you. We will have holsters for this guy because I don't think it's a dangerous handgun to carry. I just think for me, it's not one that I'm going to. I appreciate y'all stopping by. As always, stay safe out there.